Friday, March 25th, 1994, an intervention was held for Kurt Cobain at his home in Seattle to try to get him off of drugs and into rehabilitation. The whole intervention deal blindsided Kurt, and he was pretty upset that it had taken place at all, but he did agree to go into drug rehabilitation in Los Angeles. And now we fast forward to March the 29th, where bandmate Krist Novoselic was enlisted to take Kurt to the airport to fly to Los Angeles for rehabilitation. And here is where our story kicks off. That Tuesday, reservations were made for Kurt to fly to Los Angeles, and Krist was enlisted to take him to the airport. When Kurt arrived at Krist's house, it was obvious he did not want to go. As they took the 25-minute drive, Kurt sobbed and yelled and screamed. On Interstate 5, near the Tukwila exit, Kurt tried to open the door and jump from the moving car. Krist couldn't believe this was happening, yet with his long arms, he managed to hold onto Kurt as he drove, even as his car swerved. They made it to the airport a few minutes later, but Kurt hadn't improved. Krist had to drag him by the collar the way a schoolmaster might escort a ruffian to the principal's office. In the main terminal, Kurt punched Krist in the face and attempted to flee. Krist tackled him, and a wrestling match ensued. The two old friends brawled on the floor of the crowded airport terminal, cursing and punching each other like two drunks in an Aberdeen bar brawl. Kurt freed himself from his friend's grasp and ran through the building screaming, "F*** you," as shocked passengers looked on. The last Krist saw of Kurt was his blonde mop turning the corner. Krist drove back to Seattle alone, sobbing. Krist had such a huge amount of love for Kurt, Shelley recalled. That's Krist's former wife. We both did. He was family to us. I'd known him for almost half his life. As a teenager, Shelley had flipped Kurt free Big Macs from behind the counter at the Aberdeen McDonald's. And Kurt had once lived in a van behind Krist and Shelley's house, and Shelley would bring him blankets to make sure that he didn't freeze to death. Krist and Kurt had driven what seemed like 1,000,000 miles together, and they had told each other things they had never told another soul. But that Tuesday night, Krist told Shelley he knew in his heart he would never see Kurt alive again, and he was right. So that was the final time that Krist Novoselic ever saw Kurt Cobain alive. That was Tuesday, March 29th. So obviously Kurt didn't end up going to LA to rehab that day. But what happened the next day? On the 30th, that is when Kurt got his friend Dylan to buy the shotgun, and Kurt did fly out to Los Angeles for rehabilitation on the Wednesday, the following day. But he only stayed in that rehab center in LA for just a very short amount of time. He actually flew back to Seattle just a couple of days later, and of course his life ended not too long after that.
That was such an event, like when Kurt died and the way he chose to die. And, you know, it was such a media spectacle. And so you get all this, like, this mythology. Then there's books and articles and like all those kind of things, speculation, and it's just, I don't know, it's just too bad. Like, again, those are personal things that were handed Kurt, and you know, one thing led to another, and he just should have stuck around. I don't think it was just, I don't know, he just shouldn't have done that. That's all I can really say. I mean, it's like an understatement. He could have done anything he wanted to do. He could have been a painter, a sculptor. He could have lived in he could have done anything he wanted to do.
Thanks guys for tuning into the video. Quite a sad ending there that Krist and Kurt had. Some people out there may not have even known about that story, but that's the way it all went down. So thanks guys for watching. As always, leave a big thumbs up on the video, much appreciated. Shows you guys are liking what you're seeing. Consider hitting that applaud button down below and becoming a channel member. There's more information on that in the description box. And we'll catch you next time, guys.